Welcome back to VOP this morning. Let's look at how human rights lawyer Femi Falana, as senior advocate of Nigeria, has urged the authority of heads of state and government of the Economic Community of West African States, Ecowas, to urgently organize an extraordinary session to discuss and respond to the deteriorating human rights and rule of law situation in Senegal. Falana's call followed President Macky Sall's decision to call off this month's election, citing as pretext a row over the eligibility of candidates. According to Falana, ECOWAS leaders should consider imposing targeted sanctions, including imposing travel bans, assets freeze, and other targeted sanctions on Mr. Sall and officials of his government responsible for serious violation of the democratic right of the people of Senegal. The statement explained that imposing targeted sanctions on Mr. Sall and officials of his government is consistent with the provision of ECOWAS treaties and protocols, including Article 45, Paragraph 2 of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. And this actually is coming at the right time. We know that in Senegal, they're supposed to have their general election this month, this February, and that's actually what will see Mr. Sall out of office, by April. And he wake up to say, no, we are not doing this election. He first of all started to have a meeting, and this particular one actually been causing issues in Senegal. The opposition, some of the opposition men have been arrested. We have the likes of Yewi Askan. He was actually arrested, saying that they say that he was causing raw in Senegal. And one we want to ask, but before I will tell you that, let's also know that we have Dr. Gani Olushola in the building and Mr. Olusegun Akonde in the building to help us, look into this. And now what we want to ask, before we wake up to this, we know that just last month or thereabout, 3 nations pulled out of ECOWAS. And this cited the fact that the bloc or the ECOWAS bloc is moving away from the real thing that made them a bloc in the region. That was what the junta leader said that made them to leave. And now we're having another issue in Senegal, still part of West Africa, where the president says, I'm not conducting the election, you have to take it to December. That was what he said after proper dragging. And what we want to ask, because one was talking about that of the Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, there was an undertone saying that maybe Russia has a say in it, because what happened in when Mauritania left ECOWAS also shows that they have already relations in Israel. Now, people are saying that maybe another international or another Western state or nation, it's actually playing a part in the postponement of Senegal's election. Dr. Gani, do you really follow that line?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you look at it, the president of ECOWAS must be able to trade safe or cautiously, because not everything you start becoming sanction. Because the sanction he did then for Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger was actually not effective. And people are now already seeing him as a toothless bulldog that could not harm. Right? The question we should always ask before bringing in sanction is why. When you know why. Because these 3 nations pulling out of ECOWAS is already threatening the unity of the ECOWAS. And other people might just look and say, what's the benefit in being in this group? I can easily pull out, right? And at that point in time, you don't have jurisdiction or you don't have the authority to sanction them, right? I will advise the government that it might not be the best way. Call for a meeting. There might be political reason, there might be economic reason why it says it's been postponed.
He just said, Saul just said that the reason for the postponement is the issue that they are having in their parliament. Saying that he don't have, a perfect individual for the candidate. That's what the people are saying.
So at that point in time, this should not be the decision of they have the parliament, the president. They should summon them and have a roundtable discussion. You see, you don't give a sanction anyhow. Once you give a sanction anyhow, in the long run, people will not take you. They will not take you. They will not take your words as carrying weight. So at that point in time, he must be careful. He has made a pronunciation then and saying that, oh, we are sanctioning Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And those guys say that they cut the bluff and said that we are not answering you. And in the long run, even Nigerians are saying that, oh, you don't even have to say. So it needs to tread carefully, call for a dialogue, know how to be able to weigh into it. And at time, it's not always you impose strength. The time lag is almost here. Let's give them a benefit of doubt. And if nothing now happen at that point in time, then we now go through the route. They can even sign a dialogue and sign an agreement that, okay, based on your reservation on X, Y, and Z, we will be able to, because the other thing is that, what if they said you must do this by force and there's a chaos, lives are lost, right? These are things that needs to be put in proper perspective. They must ask the question why, and call for a roundtable discussion before now taking the next step.
All right, I'm going to come to you now, Mr. Sisno. At this point, it's looking a bit more interesting for ECOWAS, with the understanding of the fact that countries are pulling out. Now, Falana, SAN, made a call for stringent measures. Don't you think that is going to be too extreme to want to start at this time?
Thank you very much, David. I have this to say that what Shola said, I will allude to it. Most of the time when you give these sanctions, you ask yourself the question, what is the root cause of some of the reactions that we're getting? The three countries that pull out, they are sovereign nation on their own.
Definitely.
And most of the time, we the big giants tell individual when you have the foreign country trying to fiddle into our affairs to say we are a sovereign nation, even though you are EU, you are this, you that, we are to take our decision ourselves. Ask yourself the question, why exactly will a country choose to go the route of military dictatorship against democratic setting? It is because of the failure of those leaders. And that's what we saw within the context of the three nations that pulled out, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Because the leaders that call themselves democratically elected leaders use the office to enrich themselves against the growth of the citizen. Most of the time, it is the citizen that goes and says, you military men, you cannot be watching us like this. We understand the plight that on the long run, it doesn't favor, because you can't challenge a man that is carrying gun. Yeah. But you can talk to people that are actually democratically elected. Sure. But the failure of some of the people that you thought, because I will always say that most of the democratically elected leaders in Africa are more of military base.
So in other words, it's about the alluding of good governance in these African countries. That's the reason why we're here.
Correct. And I will always tell you, why do we say that? How many of the politically elected leaders that we have in the country go freely the way those leaders in the developed world will go? You see a senator, a parliament, leaving his place and having in front 2 elogs, at the back 2 elogs for just one candidate. You have fleets. Remember when our president came to Lagos, his base, there are places you can go freely. And it is the people that will protect you. You will tell the armsmen, I don't need you. If any of those politicians must go somewhere, there's always an advanced team in a democratic setting. And you get there, you weaponize the whole area with military apparatus. And you say you are democratically elected, leading the people, saying it's the government of the people by the people. If it indeed that is the government of the people by the people for the people, you have to move freely within them. And that's the challenge we are having in Africa. A situation where our leaders cannot boast fully, enter the public bosses, the way some of these students, even the ex-leaders, can they move freely within the, you hear about this former president before Trump, the black guy, Obama, Barack coming in, buying things on the road. Do any of our politicians move freely to get to the market and say, I'm entering this mall without you fortifying, because it is not the government of the people, by the people, for the people, but government of the people, by the people, for the few. And that's why you see a lot coming up in the African setting where they are taking their faith. The man in question that is postponing the election, he has his rule. He has seen the way the game is going. And every of our leaders, no reservation about it, are greedy in everything that they do. And the African leader needs to retrace their steps in such a way that the people that you claim you are leading, we all fought for this democracy. We all yearn for it. But are we getting the dividend of democracy as expected? I want a situation where are you aware that even a councillor that is in your constituency will not even stay in area where he's been elected as councillor? And you are saying it's democracy? Because you are afraid of the people that voted for you. So enough of this atmosphere. You see, if you can claim that, no, we have democracy running in our country, fine. But you ask yourself, as a democratically elected leader, if you are doing the right thing, you should be able to move freely among your people. You will see instances where this politician will go somewhere, the way people will be caging them. Where is it that I cannot talk to the leader?
People that voted them in. Or?
People that voted you. Or why is it that you can't talk to them? Where people need to cage them and say, no, look, I think there was one video I saw where an highly respected leader was trying to talk to the president, and an oddly was trying to cage him, and the president said, no, I need to have a word with him. Must you? What? Because those people have actually been given an instruction that the life of some of these people, we should go the route of we saying that the leaders are being protected by the citizen, not by the military arm that we are currently seeing. And that's why you see a lot of this African country being taken over, because it is the citizen that will go to them and say, this action, come and bail us out. Whether it's temporary or it's a long-term thing. Not something we support, but it's a wake-up call for an African leader.
But you know, now in Senegal, I don't think the military are beginning to come in. Senegal actually has practiced this democratic way of ruling all this while. But now people are of the opinion that what is happening there is the issue of appointment. And remember, you talked about democracy. And you know that when the Ecowas actually were writing their article, I think Article 42, paragraph 2, and they also made this known, the protocol on democracy and good governance. And even the Lomé Declaration, which Senegal also signed in 2008, also give way for the political election to be carried out. You understand? And not just that also, even the Organization of African Union also, they went ahead to sign theirs too. They're saying that once it is time for our political election to happen, we're going to do it. It's just like in Nigeria, somebody wake up to say, we are not carrying out this vote again because I don't think I have the people that, or someone I want to be there and all that, because of having issues, political issues. And the person will say, we are not doing this again. Now, I want you, Mr. Sheson, to help us. Now, what do you think this act or this thing that President Macky Sall is doing, what do you think will be the implication of this on democracy that we're talking about that we have in Africa, and also the way of rule of law in Senegal?
Yeah, Fina, I will still take you back to greed. Excuses being given by the president of Senegal does not hold water, because you feel the parliament are not fine. You ask yourself, you don't have people positioned to take over from you.
That shows Falana's call for the sanction to be imposed on them is in line.
Is in line, but you ask yourself, what is the reaction of the citizen in question? I always want to bring that to context. It is not about an external force. Myself and Shola, myself and you, if we are husband and wife, we have an internal issue that may not be known. You can come and say, these are the rules that govern our own, or this is the standard rule that should govern every houses in the country. Okay. But for us, we have an internal mechanism of how we must do things. And if suddenly I decide to say, no, my dear, we are not doing it this way, Shola is coming to intrude that, no, because these are things we feel we want or you have signed to. Like he said, it's a call for a round table. Ask the question, what is the brain behind the postponement of this election at that minute? This election is supposed to come out on the 25th. a lot of processes a lot of money would have been invested in the processes. You now come to like, if you yielded the floor at the beginning to start the preparation for the election, why are you refusing and postponing the December? It is dialogue, and you cannot take out the reaction of the citizen. What of if the citizens say, okay, we are in line with what our president is doing?
They weren't, because if they were in line, we wouldn't have this coming out. You know, the citizens
See,
actually...
it is Femi Falana that is studying the law and is trying to say this is what must be done. We have not heard from the path of the citizen.
The citizens actually they've been complaining. They've been
Have they
protesting.
carried placard?
They have. They have. And that actually led to the arrest of some of the opposition leaders
And the question is
in
that
the
those
country.
people that are carrying placard, are they political
Motivated.
Right? These are the things you need to look into. You know, in fallacy, there's one thing they call fallacy of
Undistributed middle term.
no.
Or even like generalization.
Generalization, right. Yeah, he's a brilliant student. you see, you cannot just generalize it because you must know the basis. It can be, take for instance, some people can just come out and say that, pay some set of people and say that, fashion, someone is not doing well in Lagos. And begin to make and whereas check them, they're politically motivated.
Yeah.
You now look those people that are real to look at when they upturn the vote in Kano. You know, there's some people were happy. What if when they now return Abba Yusuf to power, you could see our jubilation.
Feel the place.
Feel the place. Then the question is that who were the people? Where were the people that were happy when the Court of Appeal upturned his election? Then you could see were they politically funded or were they the real citizens? Were they the heart of the people?
I'd like to stay with you on this. What role do you think the international actors beyond ECOWAS should play in the political development of Africa as a nation? Because let's also face it, most of these African countries, particularly, let's stay with our place and we'll still take it outside, they go getting international funding. So what role do you think the international actors should play as concerning the development of Africans and in protecting them as well?
I like one statement that the Ghanaian president said, right? It's not about the international influence on us now. Then the question is that, why did we take the independence in the first stage? Right. So if agreed and I said, you see, there's no greed, even in the US. If they give Trump the opportunity, it would have been in power. But there's just a system. You know, these are leaders know that system will expose them. That is why they're fighting hook and tail to ensure that no system is in place. Because once there's a system in place, the system will throw you out naturally. Okay, let me give you, I'm still coming to your question.
Okay.
The Turkey CBN governor, not CBN, the Turkey chief of the central bank.
Yeah.
I won't say Nigeria is the CBN, of the central bank. She got the appointment, and after the appointment, she can't afford to get an apartment for herself. She was still staying with her parents. And they asked her, she said she doesn't have enough money. And you now dovetail it to my beloved country, CBN governor. It will tell you that there was a time the Minister of Petroleum says that, or the JMG of NFP said that he's staying in an hotel because he has not seen the house that is befitting him to stay. So this is where we waste money, we waste resources.
Cost of governance you're going.
You get, because there's no system. Because if you, the lady says that what is her salary? She can't even, she needs to stay a bit to be able to get an accommodation for herself. But her home country, you just say that, immediately you are appointed, you get a Banana Island house. Or a more, so these are things that systems structure things and you throw out differences in place. And let me now come to your question. It's not a must we run to the international space. Nigeria, you say you are the head of the Ecowas team, Economic Community for West Africans. The question is that, truth be told, you can only dictate for me if you have influence on me. The reason why we say you can only dictate to me when you have influence on me. The question is that, what has Nigeria contributed to the Ecowas team as a whole? Are we just the giant of Africa, or that you know the UK could say that, oh, the US will sanction Russia, we are not buying this thing from them, we want to force them to be right. So what will we say that we want to sanction them for? You understand? We must come to a point and say that let us become a man of influence. Let us always see how we can make their life better. So in the long run, we will know where you know, there's one thing for you to call sanction. It's just like when children are raised outside the country and when they're above 18 and they say that, or before they say that we are not staying with you again, because tactically the government is taking care of them. If the parents say no, they will just take them from you because they say that we can't take care of them. That's why some children could call the bluff of their parents, because they say that, oh, we can actually fund for ourselves, right? But in Africa, they still be under our custody because we take care of them. The question is just that not only for us to come from the place of sanction, where have Nigeria or the president of Nigeria been? Have we been a supporting, or we've added value to the Ecowas thing, right? We know then when there was war in some places, we deploy our soldiers, and then above all, economic-wise, have we been able to support them somewhere? Look at Niger, that we cut off our light. After all, they get, and we could not even block them because part of this thing passes through them. So we must come to a point that when we talk about the international community, the reason why they can say sanction to Africa, because they have influence on us. We give you X, Y, and Z. If you didn't go through that route, we are not going to give it to you again. And when we know that that is our source of livelihood, we succumb to them. So we must come to a table and say that not only by the books, not only by sanction, which other way can we add more value to these people? Then when it comes to things like this, and we put a call through to them and say, this thing must be dropped, they will always, because they know that if they fail to pass through that line, there are some benefit they will not be able to enjoy again because they are part of the Ecowas thing.
Okay, but Falana did make mention of the fact that countries are leaving Ecowas, particularly 3 countries now that we are seeing presently. Now, at this point, how would these exits affect the dynamics of the political space of ECOWAS as a body?
It's actually affecting them. Even some people also say that it's internationally influenced, right? Because they know that the more we converge, we come together, we can form a formidable team, right? And as we speak, Nigeria itself, out of the natural resources in the global space, Nigeria controls 40% of the natural resources. Talk about gold, talk about this. Iron, we have, so which means that 60% is being shared by other countries, US, UK. So the question is that how do we immerse on this, right? How do we develop this? And do not forget, at the early 80s and early 70s and late 70s, snowballing to early 80s, natural resources, which are part of the thing that Adele Alake was on, was they call it, that they are mining. It's one of the things that is bringing huge revenue to Nigeria. We have expatriates with a well equipment to be able to mine it, and Nigeria is anywhere. Immediately, petroleum product comes in, we ignore it. The expatriates with their equipment, they jettison, they leave Nigeria. We now leave those things into the hands of the crude and those people that does not have the capacity to be able to exploit it. And in the long run, we are losing revenue from that side. And now we are not dovetailing to that side again. But how do we now channel it? Right? Because if we've tried to focus on an aspect, ignore an aspect that gives us more revenue, we still have a gap in the system.
All right. Now, as we wrap up this conversation, because we're really pressed for time, what's on your final thoughts now? What do you think can be done to really manage the situation of ECOWAS so that it does not degenerate more than what it is right now?
If I would say dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. Without no dialogue, they will just worsen the whole thing. Because Senegal already, how do you know that maybe Mali and Niger, they are not tapping Senegal? Once they give you sanction, come.
That was why I asked you.
You get it? Come. And once that And a house divided against itself will never stand,
All
right? So at that point in time, the president must tread safely, see a way in which he could use dialogue to settle the issue. Like I saying in my dialect that the cure of an edict is not chopping off the head.
All right.
Right? You must look at wisdom to be able to solve the
Okay, Mr. Session, your final thoughts on this particular topic so that we just...
My final thought is simple. Our leaders is a wake-up call to them. They must know that the democracy that we all yearn for and we are experiencing in Africa should be guided. If it's government of the people, by the people, for the people, it should be indeed for the people. And also, we should look in line to go the route my brother have said, dialogue with people. What are the yearnings of every individual? If you say economic community, how much influence do we have on economy of those other countries that we're talking about and that of our own? I'm sure it's when you are comfortable you can talk of outsider. As a country, are we that we can definitely influence other people the way it should be? Years where our expertise is actually being needed by some of these West African countries is gone by because they now develop themselves and they now have power on their own. I remember if you go to Guinea and some country, our nationality plays major role in some strategic agency that operate there. That is when Ecowas was Ecowas. But these days it has moved on to guide your country, guide this, and government must be intentional to make sure that we give the people the dividend of democracy. Otherwise, we'll continue to experience this problem.
All right, thank you so very much, gentlemen, for being here. And of course, that is where we draw anchor on the discussion segment. With us today have been Dr. Gani Olushola, FCTI Managing Partner and KJB Professional Service. Yes, gentlemen. And of course, Mr. Session Okwade, thank you so very much for being here, political analyst and yes, political enthusiast. We want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we return, we continue with business. VOP This Morning will continue shortly. Stay with us.